Today experience was sent to us yesterday. It's concerning the wildfire of Los Angeles. God again visited a brother, one of the firefighters, and he returned with a shocking experience you need to hear, a message directly from God's throne. Kindly stay to the end to understand His will experience. My name is File. God showed me mercy. That's why as soon I could speak, I had to send this to all platform that will listen. I have sent this to over 42 other channels, hoping that the world will see beyond what they see in Los Angeles. I saw shocking things, but what struck me most was God's message to everyone. As you listen, remain blessed. It started like any other day in the life of a firefighter. The alarm blared through the station, calling my team into action. January 2025 had been unkind to California, and Los Angeles was no stranger to wildfires. But this one felt different. When we were called, we assumed it would be a few hours' work, a blaze to contain, extinguish, and move on. Little did we know that this fire wasn't just a fire, it was a force. As I write this, Los Angeles lies in ruins and the fire still burns. We threw everything we had at it, water, fire retardants, and every ounce of strength we could muster. The aircraft buzzed overhead relentlessly, dumping load after load of suppressant, but it didn't seem to matter. The flames roared back with a vengeance, as if mocking our efforts. On the ground, we were drenched in sweat, covered in soot, and exhausted beyond words. But there was no stopping. Every second counted. I remember one moment vividly. We were stationed near a line of trees, trying to cut off the fire's path. The heat was unbearable, like standing in an oven with no escape. My partner, Jake, was just a few feet away, shouting over the roar of the flames. His face was smeared with ash and his voice was hoarse from yelling. "It's like it's alive," he said, half laughing, half panicked. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Deep down, I felt it too. The fire wasn't acting like any fire I'd ever seen. It moved too fast, too erratically. It jumped barriers that should have stopped it, like roads and rivers. It would flare up in places we'd already doused, as if taunting us. I remember looking up at one point and seeing the sky turn orange, not from the sunset but from the sheer intensity of the flames. It was as if the sun itself had given way to the fire's wrath. We worked tirelessly, rotating shifts, bringing in reinforcements, and deploying every resource we had. But nothing seemed to make a dent. It was like the fire was feeding on something beyond the physical, something we couldn't see or understand. At night, when we'd take brief breaks, the team would gather, barely able to speak. The air was heavy, not just with smoke but with a strange sense of dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't just fighting a fire. It felt like we were up against something bigger, something darker. I know it sounds strange, like I'm being dramatic or reading too much into it, but the fire felt alive. It wasn't just destroying, it was consuming with a purpose. And that purpose felt malevolent, as if it had a will of its own. We were doing everything we could, but every day, it seemed to grow stronger. Looking back now, I can't ignore the feeling that we were battling more than flames. Something unseen, something relentless, was driving it forward. And no matter how hard we fought, it felt like it was laughing at us, daring us to try and stop it. January 10th will stay with me forever. We were fighting to contain a critical section of the blaze. If it spread further, it could leap across natural barriers and devastate an even larger swath of land. The battle was fierce. The heat was unbearable. I began to feel my breathing faltering, my strength waning. At first, I thought it was just exhaustion. I pushed on, trying to hold the line. Then it hit me. My lungs rebelled and I collapsed to the ground. I lay there, coughing, gasping, and then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the fire anymore. I was in a strange place, one that seemed neither here nor there. Around me I saw dark figures, demons. They stood at strategic points, unmoving but menacing. It was as if they were monitoring the fire, ensuring no one could stop it. They didn't speak, but their presence was suffocating. I found myself standing in a place that looked like a courtroom, though it was unlike any courtroom I had ever seen. The space was vast, almost endless, with no walls or ceiling, yet it felt enclosed. A strange light illuminated everything, not harsh but radiant, filling the place with a sense of gravity and reverence. Rows of figures were seated, their faces obscured, but their presence was commanding. At the center of it all stood two figures. One was radiant, clothed in a light so pure it was almost blinding. The other was dark and oppressive, its very form seeming to drain the warmth from the air. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I understood their roles instinctively. The radiant being was an angel, representing Los Angeles, pleading for mercy. The dark figure was a demon, pressing accusations against the city. I stood frozen, trying to make sense of what was happening. The weight of the moment pressed down on me, not just physically but spiritually. Then a voice spoke near me, not loud but clear enough to cut through everything else. "The demon is claiming legal grounds," it said. "The sins of the people have opened the door for this destruction." I looked closer, and though I still couldn't hear their words, I could feel the arguments being made. The demon pointed to records, images of events, words spoken, actions taken. It was as if the collective choices of the people were laid bare for all to see. Mockery of God, laws and policies that defied His will, lives lived in deliberate rebellion, all of it was being used as evidence. The angel, on the other hand, stood firm, unwavering. Though I couldn't hear its plea, I felt its essence, a call for mercy, a reminder of God's grace. It stood on behalf of those who still believed, who still prayed, who still sought the Lord, even if they were few. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, like the air before a storm. I wanted to speak, to plead, to do something, but I couldn't move. I could only watch, feeling the weight of what was unfolding. In that moment, I understood something profound. This wasn't just about the fire. It was about choices, about consequences, about the spiritual reality that underpins the physical world. The fire was a symptom, but the cause went far deeper. The demon's argument was relentless, and I could sense its confidence. It believed it had the right to continue the destruction. But the angel's presence was a reminder of hope, of the power of mercy, and of a God who still hears the cries of His people. The scene changed in an instant. One moment, I was in the courtroom, surrounded by tension and unseen forces. The next, I was standing in a place of peace. The air felt different, pure, calm, alive. There was no fire, no smoke, no chaos. Just stillness. As I stood there, a figure began to approach. His presence was unlike anything I had ever felt. There was power in him, but it wasn't the kind that frightened. It comforted. His eyes held a depth of understanding and love that I couldn't put into words. I knew instantly who he was. It was Jesus. He stopped in front of me, his gaze piercing through every doubt and fear I carried. When he spoke, his voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that went straight to my soul. "The fire started on a legal ground," he said. "The sins of this city have given the enemy a foothold." I stood frozen, listening as he began to explain. "First," he said, "the city has mocked God. They've declared that they don't need Him. They've spoken it with their words and shown it in their actions, turning away from the one who sustains them." His words hit hard. I could see it clearly, the arrogance, the pride of thinking that success and progress came from human effort alone, while ignoring the mercy that allowed it all to happen. "Second," he continued, "they have embraced lifestyles and policies that oppose my will. Immorality has been normalized. Laws have been made to silence truth, to keep my name and my ways out of public life. Images flashed in my mind, decisions made, policies passed, celebrations of things that grieved his heart. I understood what he meant, and it was painful to see. Third," he said, "my people, the church, have grown lukewarm. They've stopped calling on me with passion and sincerity. They've become distracted, choosing comfort over commitment. They've forgotten their power lies in prayer." I felt a deep sadness in his voice. It wasn't anger, it was heartbreak. He wasn't condemning, he was revealing. "Because of these things," he said, "the enemy has found legal grounds to bring destruction. But know this, I am a God of justice, and I am also a God of mercy." I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. His words carried so much truth, and I felt them cutting through every part of me. Yet, even in the weight of it all, there was hope. "If my people rise up and pray," he said, "if they turn back to me, I will heal their land. I will end this destruction and bring restoration. But they must choose me. They must seek me with all their hearts." As he spoke, I felt a warmth, a lightness, as if hope itself was being poured into me. He wasn't just pointing out the problem, He was giving the solution. And it was so simple, yet so powerful, to turn back to Him, God over everything else. As I stood in His presence, Jesus began to reveal profound truths. His words carried a weight that went beyond anything I had ever experienced, and though He wasn't harsh, there was an undeniable urgency in what He shared. He revealed to me that God's justice is perfect and unchanging. Consequences are a part of justice, He explained, but mercy remains available for those who seek it. He showed me that the wildfire consuming Los Angeles wasn't God's desire, it was a consequence of choices made over time. There was hope, though. He revealed that restoration was possible, but it required genuine repentance and fervent prayer. This wasn't about surface-level acts or empty rituals, it was about people turning their hearts back to God, acknowledging their dependence on Him and seeking His guidance. He revealed that the prayers of believers carried power, not because of their strength, but because of their connection to the One who answers. He made it clear that this wasn't just about Los Angeles, it was a call to believers everywhere. The change needed to start with the church, those who claimed to follow Him. The wildfire, He revealed, was symbolic of something deeper, a spiritual wake-up call. He showed me that if people continued on the same path, destruction would spread far beyond the physical. But if they humbled themselves and sought God earnestly, He would respond. Healing and restoration could come, but only if they turned back to Him. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. My lungs had suffered severe damage, and the doctors said I was lucky to be alive. To my brothers and sisters in Christ across the globe, I come to you with an urgent plea. The wildfire that is consuming Los Angeles is unlike anything we have ever seen. It is not just a physical disaster, but a reflection of a deeper spiritual battle. The flames that destroy homes, forests, and lives are fueled by forces beyond the natural, and it is clear that this is a moment for the church to rise up. This is not just Los Angeles's fight. It is our fight as believers. We are called to stand in the gap for those who cannot, to intercede for mercy where judgment seeks to prevail. Our God is merciful and just, and His heart longs to heal and restore. But we must answer His call to prayer.